argue that the most grueling and dangerous form of desert racing comes on Moto Day, when the quads and motorcycles hit Vulture Mine. 3 hours of rugged trail punishing the mind and body without the protection of a roll cage. And Moto Day means the medevac helicopter is on speed dial.
We try to minimize the accidents, but you know, it's a sport that's, you're hanging it out there most of the time, so anything can happen.
One quick bobble and you're off the track and you're into who knows what.
It is exhausting. The physical strength and mental capacity to finish these races are really brutal.
Like the UTVs, the bikes race 3 30-mile loops. The fastest group is the Open Pro class, where riders knock out each lap in under an hour. The challenge of maintaining speed over 90 miles isn't missed on the guy with the coolest name in the Open Pro class, Tony Scarponi.
You just gotta stay on, hold on tight, and go with it. Hold on.
Tony starts strong, but about 5 miles in, he punctures his rear tire. For the next 25 miles, he has to ride on one good tire. Amazingly, it doesn't really seem to slow him down all that much.
The whole rear end just wants to wash out on you, wash out on you. Very hard to control. Nice thing is, got a stabilizer on the front, so it just kind of keeps the bike straight, and I just got to kind of steer with the rear.
As Tony pits to get his new tire, Open Pro phenom Kyle Hucklebridge stretches his lead. Young Kyle's a multi-race veteran of the 600-mile Vegas to Reno. Yesterday, he placed second at Laughlin, and today he gets out in front of the rest of the Open Pro class and never looks back. If there's one secret to going fast for a long time and not wearing yourself out, Kyle's the kid to ask.
You want to stand up pretty much at least 90% of the time. You just want to sit down in the corners. As soon as you start sitting down, you start making mistakes.
By doing this, Kyle takes the pressure off his hands and arms, because as any rider can tell you, those hands take a lot of abuse.
I had a flat and I washed out, hit a tree, came up on me. This is just from holding on. Yeah, your hands definitely take a beating.
Garrett wasn't the only one getting punished, because the desert has plenty of ways to bite you.
There's overhanging branches you got to duck down, and some of them you can't. You just take the hit as you go through.
I actually took a branch probably about 1 inch in diameter right into the rib cage. But yeah, tree limbs and branches are everywhere, and you can't help but hit them.
And one plant you definitely don't want to hit are these white cactuses.
Yeah, that's called a cholla, and that's what's buried in my arm right now. And the thorns range anywhere from 1/8 of an inch all the way up to 1 inch long. And they got barbs on the end, so once they go in, they don't like to come back out.
And up next, the cholla cactus looms large as the quads take on Vulture Mine, so stay tuned. Between the cactuses, whoops, rocks, sand, and G-outs, what's the biggest challenge of racing in the moto class? Almost everyone has the same answer.
Yourself.
Your mind is doing all kinds of tricks on you.
And I think a lot of times you're your worst enemy. You're running good, your times are good, you're running fast, you're in a good place, and sometimes you just make a stupid mistake and take yourself out of the race.
Few people understand this lesson better than Jonathan David McVeigh.
2 years ago at this track, I passed my best friend for first place, and right after I passed him, about 2 miles later, I broke my neck. I went right over the handlebars and landed on my head.
Today, John's back in the saddle racing quads with the senior pros, an over 30 quad class that bucks the notion of with age comes the cage.
I still like being on the quad. I feel free out there when I'm out riding, having a good time, ripping through the trails.
Jonathan rides a Honda 2006 TRX 450, which he's updated with full long travel suspension front and rear. The quad was put together by Max Hernandez of Torque Desert Racing. If you want to take a stock quad and turn it into a hot rod, Max is your man.
I make A-arm suspension, swing arms, all that stuff, running 19 3/4 inch shocks. The lower A-arms are bent to allow for a longer shock. Running Heims, you can actually adjust the caster and camber. All those adjustments allow for a lot bigger suspension to soak up bigger whoops, jumps, drop-offs.
But as tricked out as these guys get with the suspension, quad racing isn't about sitting back and enjoying the ride.
When you hit a corner, you just hit the corner and you swing around that back end, you use the power to maneuver around. If you're hitting bumps, G-outs, whoops, anything, you want to be standing on the bike, leaning back, leaning sideways if you're making a turn.
The big issue in today's quad race is going to be the visibility. A strong wind is blowing in from the north, and we've got a dust bowl.
Before the race, I'm sitting there thinking to myself, how am I going to overcome this? How am I going to overcome my adversities? And I wanted to come and win today.
The way Whiplash marked this course is the exact same as when John had his accident. It's 3 30-mile loops, just like the bikes. During the first lap, a haunting sense of déjà vu takes hold.
I started feeling something, and all of a sudden I saw the turn where I went over the handlebars. And so it was absolutely, to be able to make that turn, and I mean to tell you, on the third lap, I ripped that turn so hard, maybe out of stupidity, I ripped that turn so hard that it just felt great.
John's goal of winning fell short by just one rider. In the end, he pulled a second place. Not bad for a guy who 2 years ago didn't even know if he'd ever get back in the saddle.
What keeps me coming back is just the passion for it, the love for the sport. And it's difficult, it's challenging, it's fun, it's hard. It's really hard on you, but it's exhilarating.